point at me when you're ready.
What's up, everybody? Greg Spiro here for Mornings with Greg, and we have a very, very special morning for you this morning. It's probably more professional than I've ever done this stream before. Here, I'm going to turn the music down for you. We have a very special guest host today, Simon Rentner from WBGO and the Checkout.
What's up, everybody?
I'm going to bring him in right now. What's up, Simon?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Public Radio Music Day. Welcoming everyone joining us for this first Checkout live virtual studio session. And today we have musicians joining us from all over the world. A beautiful trumpeter by the name of Marquis Hill. He'll be giving us some tips for self-love during these stressful times. He'll be joining us from Brooklyn, New York. The drummer Makaya McCraven, getting a little rest from his hard road tour. He'll be giving us a home studio tour from Chicago. And I don't know if you didn't know, Greg, but I think you do know, he's a collector of instruments. And
I know all, but he has some of mine.
So he's going to give us a little tour. And then we have the Swedish-born, New York-based singer Sirintip will be performing live for us. With, I believe, maybe Nolan Boyd will be joining us as well. But and she'll also be giving us an update about the world's first online music festival and fundraiser that raised a ton of money to help out musicians in need during these crazy times. Live from our living rooms is the name of it. And then Michael Lee, you might know him as the bassist and band leader of Snarky Puppy, will be joining us from Spain to talk about his new series of online workshops and conversations. And maybe we can get him to convince him to play the Moroccan djembe too and sing for us. He's working on a solo project, as far as I understand, which is kind of nuts. All of this would not be possible if it weren't for you, Greg Spiro, who inspired me personally with your elaborate apocalyptic media setup based in LA.
Yes. Well, it also wouldn't be possible if it weren't for you actually making me do something professional other than my little ranting and conversing with everybody that I do every morning at 8 a.m.
Well, he's hosting a morning show entitled Mornings with Greg with 3 exclamation points. Very important
Need the
detail.
Exclamation points. I appreciate that you've added that in the branding.
Daily hangs with musicians at this exact time, giving Chick Corea a run for his money in continuous live stream programs.
Yeah,
albeit a little different.
Mine's a little bit different. Yeah, Chick doesn't act like as much of an idiot as I act. That's
but
for sure.
Greg, you also have a new recording coming out in June on Rope-A-Dope.
I do.
Entitled. So actually, we're having a little technical difficulties right now. We're not getting video on the BGO's side of things or Checkout side of things. Can you look into that?
Yeah, I will look into that while you chat a little bit.
Okay, well, so yeah, we're really excited to bring all of these amazing artists together from all over the world. So Marquis Hill, you may know, just dropped sort of version 2 of his Love tapes, which he put out last year, late, I believe in October, November, called Love Tapes, which is instrumental kind of love compositions, tackling ideas of self-love. And then more recently, in February, basically released version 2 of that recording with a bunch of vocalists, and we'll be talking to Marquis Hill all about that, those beautiful recordings. I believe it's his 8th or 9th recording as a solo independent recording artist, and he has all kinds of really cool singers with him, including Chris Turner and hope I pronounced this right, Folix, Alex Isley, Christy Dashiel, a beautiful assortment of singers. And he's also managed to sample in some legendary jazz singers as well to the recordings for Abby Lincoln and Eartha Kitt. Anyway, if you're looking for an uplift, some music, some sounds that will heal you and will uplift you, certainly, definitely check out Marquis Hill's Love Tape. And then Makaya McCraven, might have been like the busiest drummer in the last 2 years. Most insane road schedule by any drummer band leader on the jazz scene that I've ever seen. So much so that musicians would come up to me and say, "Oh my God, who does Makaya have booking for him?" Because I was able to see Makaya McCraven actually in Istanbul last summer, also with another guest on the show, Michael League from Snarky Puppy, playing just in front of massive audiences. So in sort of a weird way, this pandemic hit during a kind of opportune time for Makaya, because he told me he was kind of getting burnt out from road tripping so hard. And so he's been able to just lay low a little bit. So somehow, thankfully, I've been able to convince him to come out of hibernation a little bit and give us an update and show us his insane home studio where he has scores of instruments just in the wings. And he also has been telling me he's been practicing other instruments besides the drums. Hopefully he'll be telling us more about that as well. And then what else we got? So then we have a really awesome and beautiful singer by the name of Sirintip, ground up music recording artist, works with Michael League on her latest recording called Tribus. And she's actually going to be giving us a performance from her room. And of all the live sort of streams of concerts that I've been checking out and watching over the past month or so, Sirintip has really upped the ante in terms of the production and getting just amazing sound. And I highly recommend going to Live from Our Living Rooms right now to watch her set, which is still available. And while you're there, you can make a donation. They will be giving out, or they are in the process of giving out, $500 donations to musicians that apply from their first virtual online festival and fundraiser. So you can definitely, again, livefromourlivingrooms.com. There's some amazing sets up there. The Fabian Almazan with Linda O. You got Becca Stevens doing an awesome children's concert. Tana Alexa and Antonio Sanchez did a really rocking set, beautiful sound. Julian Lage. There's so many artists that performed as part of this festival. Joe Lovano with his wife. So livefromourlivingrooms.com to go look at that and learn about what they're doing. I'm gonna drink some water real quick.
Yeah, and I'll interrupt you because I got it working. For some reason, the stream key that I had initially set up decided to fail, and so that initial one didn't go out. So I just reset the whole thing, and now it's live, and it should be live on all the pages. So
okay,
let's just consider ourselves 10 minutes late, and
hey, well, this is an experiment. This is the first time we're doing this, so there's going to be some technical difficulties along the way. I mean, we are speaking to artists from all around the world here, so.
Yeah, well, and it looks like it's live. Do you want to maybe confirm just on the WBGO page that it's?
Sure. I'll confirm right now. I'm getting some text messages here.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Thank you. Of course, we can't do one of these without some kind of, production crisis. So we're good.
We're good?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. So, or are we good? I don't know. Can you?
Here,
Okay.
I'm double checking on the
You can't see
WBGO
it?
page right now. I don't see it live on the WBGO page, so maybe give me another second here because I have it cross-posted. Oh, here we go. I know. Boom. Okay, give it 15 seconds and then this should be all solid. Okay, now it says live. Now we're good. What's up, everybody? And it says Greg Spiro cross-posted your video. Spirit Fingers cross-posted the video. Weekly Piano cross-posted the video. And now we just need to do the final confirmation that WBGO has cross-posted the video.
Okay.
And yep, there it is. I see it on WBGO's page. So that means
Okay.
it'll be on the checkouts page as well. Okay, so
All right.
for those
Yeah. Should I reread the intro for everybody? Maybe I should.
Yeah.
Well, happy Public Radio Music Day, everyone. Sorry for the delay. We're having a little bit of technical issues. I'm Simon Retner. Welcome to our first Checkout Live virtual studio session. Today we have musicians joining us from all over the world. A gorgeous trumpeter by the name of Marquis Hill. He'll be giving us some tips for self-love during these stressful times, joining us from Brooklyn, New York. We got the drummer Makaya McCraven giving us a rare tour of his home studio. Did you know he's an instrument collector and he's learning new instruments? I didn't, but we'll speak to him about that. Then we got the Swedish-born, New York-based singer Sirintip, ground-up recording artist, will be performing for us live in her home studio that she's built for herself. And she'll also talk about the world's first online music festival and fundraiser she helped co-produce live from our living rooms, livefromourlivingrooms.com to find out more information. Then Michael League, the bassist and band leader of Snarky Puppy, you might know, be joining us from Spain, he's actually giving an awesome series of online workshops and conversations, and we'll talk to him about that. And maybe we can convince him to play the Moroccan djembe and sing for us. He's working on a solo project, believe it or not. And all of this wouldn't be possible if it weren't for you, Greg Spiro, who inspired me with your elaborate multimedia apocalyptic setup. 3 cameras, shooting your piano, mornings with Greg, daily hangs with the LA-based pianist and composer from his home studio. He has a new recording coming out entitled Peace. That's in all caps on Rope-A-Dope, looking slick as usual in his Adidas tracksuit. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. You know what you're inspiring me to do, Simon, is to pre-write my intros, because that was brilliant. And I've never, my method is just improvising, and that's probably why I act like such a goofball on these morning shows. And that I really appreciate that intro, and I appreciate hearing it twice now that we're back on.
Well, why don't you kick things off the show with a performance? You're going to share a tune from your new recording.
I would love to share a tune from my recording. The tune that I will share is called Nails, and it's here, let me turn off my audio here. It's written in 2016, which is one of the weird time signatures that I love, and it sounds kind of like 4/4 because it's really fast, and I can't actually play it as fast as I wrote it. The MIDI file plays it faster than me, but I'm going to give it a shot. So here, I'll switch it over to to my screen so you can see my hands on the live broadcast here. We should be able to still hear you, Simon. Yeah, here we go.
right. Nails.
That's a way to start the morning. I should have warmed up.
Yeah, right? Oh, my Lord. Lord have mercy. Yeah, well, what's it like to play that tune at 8 a.m.?
Oh, man, it is not. So the way I wrote it is supposed to be like... But then when I get to the ending lines, there's no possible way to execute those yet. I have to took me a while to learn to just play it at that speed. But it also, it's a little different when you get the full band on it, because, on the recording, Max Garrell is playing all the bass lines with me, and Mike Mitchell is just smashing all the drum parts. So I hope people get a chance to hear the live recording pretty soon.
I mean, it's an incredible rhythm section. Honestly, one of the best in jazz today, in my humble opinion. Somehow, Greg, you've managed to, get some of the baddest cats around playing on your records. I mean, if you ever get a chance to see Mike Mitchell's Black Dynamite band, it's definitely worth going. Hopefully, when we can all go see concerts soon. Yeah, right. Shout out to Mike Mitchell, who, when I spoke to Eric Harlan in Belgium, actually, we were talking about Mike Mitchell as just one of the baddest, underrated drummers on the scene today. So incredible. Yeah. Well, he's so young, man. He's got such a long career ahead of him. I feel like he has the potential to be like the Tony Williams of our generation. As long as he can just keep going, because it's not easy to keep going in this music world, but as long as he keeps going. I thought he was actually gonna break the drums at New Blue when I saw him.
He has broken the drums before on my show.
All right. Well, we have Makaya McCraven is going to be joining us soon. We're a little delayed today, so thank you everyone for sticking with us as we are live streaming on multiple channels: the WBGO's Facebook page, the Checkouts Facebook page, YouTube, you name it. Greg Spiro, all over the place. We're bringing this program to you live, and give us your comments, give us your love, because we've never done this before, and we're
grand experiment
as best as possible. So tell us a little bit more. Do you want to maybe just talk about your new recording coming out? You just released a single, Goodbye, with the singer Judy Jackson. What's this record about?
Okay, yeah, I will. Also, just let me know when I should admit Makaya, because Makaya and Marquis are both in the waiting room right now.
Okay, why don't we just bring them? Well, why don't you give us a few words about the record, and then you can just bring them both in at the same time.
Okay, so the record's called Peace, and it features Judy Jackson along with a host of other guests. Braxton Cook is on there, Greg Ward, and Bubby Lewis, and Jonathan Scales also. So it's a 13-track record. We released one of them called Goodbye, which you can check out on Spotify. The next one, Nails, is coming out soon, which is one of the more Spirit Fingers-esque tracks that has all the fast lines and all the crazy shit. But then it's got some more like songy stuff on there too. I think people are really going to enjoy it.
Okay. Well, let's welcome the trumpeter Marquis Hill and Makaya McCraven to...
Which do you want? Do you want both of them now, or do you want one before the other?
Well, why don't we bring in Makaya, and let's bring them both at the same time, and they can both comment.
All right, great. Here we go.
This is jazz, y'all. We're improvising.
This is jazz, everybody. There's Makaya.
Yo, Makaya McCraven.
Hello.
And then we got Marquis Hill joining us from Brooklyn in his Brooklyn car parked outside his street.
Oh my God.
Are there any zoning laws in Brooklyn right now?
No zoning laws in Brooklyn right now. Everybody's parking wherever they want to.
Oh man, wow, what a dream.
Beautiful. Well, thank you guys for joining us both at the same time. This is amazing. I thought, at this time, I don't know how many people know. How many people know, Makaya, that you're an instrument collector and that you have this massive home studio? I mean, probably people that dig into your records, some of your early hits, know that you spent hours and hours and hours, countless hours, meticulously crafting your beat music as a beat scientist. But how many people know that you have this sort of this fetish for instrument collection?
Probably the people who know me, who work with me.
know that I have a collection of instruments. And some people know that I'm like I play different instruments or a multi-instrumentalist of some sorts. But I don't know, part of my whole artistic endeavors have been around kind of eclectic music through my parents, and like there's always been a lot of instruments in the house. When I grew up, there was always piano and a guitar and a variety of flutes and mandolins and different drums. And early in my old band, I started to get into vintage keyboards with the keyboards I worked with. And just so over the years, having some space, I've just started amassing different collection of instruments that moved into samplers and just different things I like to experiment. It's a way that I like to write music from different instruments, and sometimes it's just a getaway is playing different instruments and like learning music from a broad perspective than just from my primary instrument.
All right, so why don't you start giving us a tour, and I'll start asking you some questions along the way. Show us what you got.
Well, let's see here. Let's go to little keyboard land. Here I got a Rhodes in the closet here and a Juno 60. This Rhodes actually came from the pianist Wilhelm Delesport.
Wilhelm.
In New York, when he used to live in Chicago, and when he was moving to New York and he was unloading some gear, I took a one off of his hands and bought it from him, just kind of help him with the move, as well as, and he got this Rhodes from the guitarist Fareed Haq here in Chicago. So there's a little history with this instrument. And this Juno here belonged to one of my close college friends who's given it to me on a long-term loan. And here I got a Moog here, Prodigy. The story behind this one, similar to the Rhodes, this one belonged to great piano player from Chicago, Rob Clearfield, who recently moved to Paris. And so that one has some history and some connection with me through friendship. And this Wurlitzer, I actually got when doing some workshops at an elementary school, that it was just gathering dust, and it wasn't really working. And so they gave it to me, and I got it fixed up. And now it's been maybe my favorite piece of my collection, as this is featured on all the last records I've made, except for Highly Rare. You'll hear this Wurlitzer. Over here, I got a MPC from Jeff Parker that he kind of left with me recently. And so that's the keyboard corner. I've got some drums, ready to go, mic'd up. My dad's old K. This would run on all of his old records, and this is like a family heirloom to me. I love that cymbal. And I have one of Junius Paul's basses that he's left with me. Just after I was practicing and playing, every time he came by, and he said, "Man, you're starting to sound all right. You need a bass to play." And he had one, and so I've been kind of keeping it here for him, which is nice. And actually next to that is this bass is a bass I grew up with and was in my house from the time I was a kid. And that's where I learned just some simple basics, playing this kind of homemade fretless bass that was built by a friend of my father's. It sounds pretty cool. It's in pretty rough shape, but I keep that one around because it just reminds me of good times.
And so just a quick...
Look what I got. I think I told you.
Oh, yeah.
At a thrift shop.
That's right, yeah.
My son comes down here sometimes when he's upset, he'll just blow. And he's getting a couple different pitches out of the bugle.
I got you a little trumpet player. Okay.
Maybe, man. He
Maybe.
really enjoys it. He really enjoys it.
Nice, man. That's fun.
Yeah, so first question, Makaya, how many of these instruments can you actually play and get away with it? I understand you once played bass at a hip hop gig.
I've played a handful of gigs on bass, very simple music many years ago, but I can get around the bass. I can get around keyboards. Working through changes and some standards and applicable.
I saw you sitting with Jason Lindner last Winter Jazz Festival on a weird sort of synth improv set. And
he had some
laid
sort
it
of
down. Greg, you were there too.
Yep. Yeah, I was playing my main instrument. Makaya was on. Well, actually, that's sort of your main instrument too. You were playing what, like a sampler, right?
Yeah, well, it was more of like a sequencer, which I have some sequencers here, but actually my first drum machine was a sequencer, so it was kind of familiar. But I don't even know what it is. I don't remember what that thing was. I never worked with one of those. But all the instruments around, I like to try to play a bit. I've had some guitars around the house for a while that I've not been able to play very well. And ever since this lockdown, I've taken it as an opportunity to get guitar lessons for myself and my daughter. And so that's been a really fun project here while at home. And I've been gaining some facility there. But, I play the instruments well enough to use them to write and to use them for overdubbing and doing things. And like on the latest record, the Gil Scott-Heron reimagining, I played a lot of the instruments on that record, as well as working with some great musicians and samples from some of my father's records. But,
That's beautiful, man. Well, I hate to cut you off. We'll leave some time for Marquis Hill to talk about. He's got some tips for self-love here, but I personally love seeing your home studio. One last question: how much of your experimentation in sound is sort of a byproduct of basically being the home turf of the AACM being there? I mean, did that sort of, as a catalyst, provide you the inspiration and flexibility just to say, hey, I'm just going to collect all these instruments and make all these crazy sounds?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I mean, I've been collecting and playing instruments since I was a child living in Massachusetts. I used to sneak into the living room in the old house when I was a kid late at night when everybody was asleep and pull my mom's mandolin, which I wasn't supposed to touch, from out from under where she kept it, and then I would pluck on that thing. And so I brought all these instruments, a lot of these instruments here to Chicago, and this is my getaway. These are the things that I do, for self-love, not only just for creation, but it's definitely something that I do to keep my sanity and keep my peace. And I try to share that with my family as much as I can, especially at a time like this. And so, I always try to encourage people to play music and listen to music. And I don't think you have to be a professional or a virtuosic to gain a lot of value, both mentally, physically, and spiritually by playing instruments. And it wasn't so long ago where the recorded sound didn't exist, and if you wanted to hear a song, you needed to be able to hack it out on the keyboard, on a piano with your family around, or on acoustic guitar, and you could sing the songs or play the songs that you wanted to hear, or you had to see it live. And so I think, that some of that is being lost, with people have the same access to play, or they think I can't do that, or I have no skill. And I don't really think of it that way. I really think of it as it's like something we can all do and share. And then that gives us more appreciation for those that are like playing their instruments at very high level.
It's also very disarming to the psyche to play an instrument that you haven't become an expert at in your life. And we would do that. That was one of the sort of therapeutic things that we did. Actually, the three of us did on tour, in these various situations when we would play a show, and then afterwards we would like when everybody had left the concert hall, just get on all the different instruments and jam out as a sort of way of like letting loose and just having fun.
Yeah. especially, you know, after you spend so much time trying to master what you do, you know, it's nice to have some perspective, you know, and, you know, there's a lot to be learned from that, I believe.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Makaya, so much for these words of wisdom as we try to, I mean, this is like almost like everyone is setting the reset button, right? And pressing restart to our lives, the way we think about how we live in general. And yeah, exactly. Like these barriers that we put up for instance, I wouldn't ever consider playing an instrument because I speak to musicians like you who are just super dope. So maybe I need to reconsider my own life plans and pick up an instrument. So one question, I'm asking this to everybody on today's show. One song for self-isolation, whatever that means to you.
One song for self-isolation. You know, I say, don't worry about a thing, because every little thing's gonna be all right.
Bob Marley.
Yeah, there's been a lot of Bob Marley in this house, and for me, it's been I can't even, I want to say for me, I would say for us, because this has been a time of deep family for me. I've got 2 young children and my wife upstairs, and so that is very universal music for us in the house, and we've been, you know, learning songs that are simple. You know, for the kids, you know, we can learn triads and simple progressions and simple lyrics, and it's just heartwarming and good songwriting, good music, and so that's what's been going on here.
All right. Well, we hope to see you, all 3 of you, maybe on the same stage at the same time, hopefully in the near future, one way or another, whether it's in Marquis's band or your band, Makaya, or Greg's band. It'd be amazing to see you all in concert again and be well and healthy, Makaya.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Bro, love the baby face too. It's great. I haven't seen you on FaceTime in a long time.
Clean.
Love it, man.
I sent my facial hair to Marquis.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's kind of gross. All right.
Or you can stay with us as Marquis talks. So I want Marquis, I asked you, you know, your latest recording, Love Tapes, and the latest installment, Love Tapes with Voices, which came out in February, which is just awesome kind of remixes of the original material that you had instrumentally that you put out in the fall of last year. But it's a love tape. And it is sexy, and I can imagine myself in a room listening to that music, maybe with another person intimately, but it's more than that, isn't it?
It is, definitely. It's much more than that. For me, when I started just researching the interviews for the project, one of the reoccurring themes was self-love. And for me, at the time I started to write the music for the project, that really resonated. You know, we're kind of living especially now, we're living in a time, man, things are a bit crazy out here. So I think it's pretty crucial that we take some of this time to just go within and deal with ourselves internally, you know. Yeah, that self-love is the key during a time like this. And that project pretty much about that.
Okay, so give us self-love tip number 1. What can you prescribe to our audience?
Self-love tip number 1, let's see. Well, you know what, for me, man, you know, we've been quarantined for 3 weeks now, and it's, you know, like I said, it's crazy out here. I've been making a point to pop outside every day, just to get a little bit of fresh air. So for me, that has been extremely helpful. Just be with nature a little bit, you know, go out for 15, 20 minutes, get some of the sunlight, touch a tree if you're into that, you know, run, get some exercise, just be sure to connect with nature a little bit. And for me, that's been extremely helpful. Getting fresh air and seeing the sun, you know.
Very cool. I know some of my New York friends and colleagues, I hear they haven't even left their apartment in 3 weeks. And I just can't imagine what that would do to anyone's mental space.
Yeah, man. It's scary. Like I said, man, some scary times. And I mean, I do encourage people to stay in as much as possible because it's real out here. But for the it's necessary to get a little bit of fresh air and get in tune with nature as much as you can during these times. So I've been making a point to be able to get out and get some sunlight.
All right, well, this gives me a chance to shout out my mom, because I'm staying with her in Eugene, Oregon, where, there's nature all around us. And my wife and I are going on daily hikes. And, I understand other people don't have that luxury, but it's extremely helpful for us.
That's beautiful. Enjoy that. That's incredible.
So, all right. So, love tape tip number 2.
I like that. Alliteration there. Love tape tip number 2. Meditate. I'm really just kind of thinking about what's happening now. And for me, with what's going on in the world, just meditating has really, really been helpful for me. 10 minutes twice a day. It doesn't take much, but it kind of ties in with what I just said, just taking the time to go within yourself, kind of block out everything that's happening in the world and taking 20 minutes a day to really just deal with your feelings and your thoughts and what's going on internally. So that's been extremely helpful.
Now, what does your meditation look like? Do you put on music? Is it just silence? Do you breathe? Mm-hmm. What's the practice?
Yeah, for me, I'm trying to be as clear as possible. So no music, no sounds, just really trying to clear my mind and my thoughts of everything. And focusing on my breath for sure. But the ultimate goal for me is just to be completely clear, which is difficult because thoughts are coming in and out like waves of water. But that's the key to meditation, being able to clear yourself when you're in times exactly like this,
All right. And then I guess you have one last tip for us. Tip number 3.
Love tip number 3. Let's see. Yeah. So for me, during these times, music, what Dizzy said, music is my meditation, the great Dizzy Gillespie. And for me, just checking out different music from different cultures and just checking out as much music as possible has really been an outlet. Like just digging into records that I've been wanting to check out for years, but haven't had time, or really, spending time on my instrument, playing more piano, writing more music, just really getting lost in my art form, getting lost in the music. And that's been super, super helpful. And I'm assuming most musicians during this time, they're doing the same thing. And it's really healing for us to be able to put this much energy and time into the music. So for me, that's been extremely helpful as well.
All right. Well, I recently had the pianist and composer Nduduzo Makatini on my show, who's also a traditional healer in Sangoma from South Africa. And he in the show said something that still is resonating in my brain today that I want to ask all 3 of you actually, which is, now in this new world that we're living in, are you making music? Are you thinking about music and bringing music to others differently than you would have previously, thinking about music as a healing power?
That's a powerful question. For me, like my ultimate goal from day one has always been to touch people through my music. So I think with what's going on, my direction is still to touch and heal people, but just now with more intention behind that, like just more of that energy being put into the music. Because it really is healing. Music has the power to take people out of this reality. So for me, that's one of the ultimate goals. So definitely just putting more of that energy and more intention into the music. Absolutely.
I would say music, in addition to that, music focuses on a reality that is more truthful and ever present beyond all of the reality that we see that has all these troubles and all the sufferings in our day-to-day life. It's the reality that's the undercurrent of our being that connects with every individual in the most beautiful and most profound way. And that's why people talk about it being spiritual, or getting to this feeling of God or whatever you think is the higher, like the existence that we can't fully grasp, but that we can get little like nuggets of in our journey. It's always been a healing power for me, and it's always been a meditation for me. And now more than ever, it's the thing that, I mean, in addition to meditation in the morning, like you're doing, I do that in the morning and the evening, but actually playing music and sitting with the piano and practicing is such a grounding force for me during this time.
You know, for me, music has always been my my getaway and my weapon of choice. You know, to combat the ills around me and to be a healing force. And I've always really in how my parents also, as two musicians, have taught me is a very powerful force for for change in the world or for good in the world. It's a huge thing, and I've really tried to dedicate my pursuit of being a creator to that, you know. But you know, during this time for me, you know, I've been moving really fast for the last 2, 3, 4 years, like on the road, making records at a high pace, always producing, always working on stuff. And there's been a moment where I've really taken the opportunity, and it's been a blessing in many ways, to slow down and focus inward and on myself and my family. You know, it's quite challenging with 2 young children. You know, I know upstairs could be pretty hectic right now, and they may need me pretty soon, you know, and so there's not a lot of time in the day that's not homeschooling or playing or cooking or cleaning or all this stuff. And as challenging as it's been, I've been really grateful, you know, because, you know, for me, the idea is, and I feel like for me to be most effective, to bring my gifts to the world, you know, the healers also need to be healed.
Yeah.
You know? And it's very easy for us as artists and musicians to get, you know, we all don't have to go over all the different challenges that artists go through their lives to survive and to make it, you know. So I've been taking this as a time to focus kind of inward and take care of my family. And, you know, I haven't been very compelled to do online performances or anything yet. I'm looking at this as a marathon and not as a sprint, you know. And my goals right now is to be strong and healthy so that I'm in a place of power, you know, to do the most good I can do, you know, when I feel fit for me, you know. And so that's kind of how I've been taking it at this time, you know. And rather than like writing a lot, producing a lot, I have been, you know, doing things that I feel like are a getaway, like playing the piano or playing guitar. Those are the things that make me feel better when I have a moment. And I've been using the time to bring that to my kids as well, and listening to records with them as well. And so, you know, I'm not sure how everything will progress, but I have been thinking a lot about what are ways that I can maximize my efforts in bringing, you know, bringing things to the world that will be positive, and where my talents, you know, can be most useful, you know, in the coming months, really, and from now on, you know. I think there's an opportunity to reimagine the way things are and the way things can be. And I don't believe that all bad things happen for a reason, or that there's ultimately a good from every bad thing. But I do think it is our duty as survivors, you know, to find and create your own silver lining no matter what, or else all hope is lost. And so that's what I'm doing, is I'm working my ass off to find my own silver linings, you know, so that I can be strong to help others.
It's beautiful. All right. Well, thank you both, Marquis, Makaya. It's been a pleasure and a joy, and thank you for sharing these words. And I guess leaving it to you, Marquis, one song for self-isolation for yourself. What does that mean? And to you, and what's the song?
One song for self-isolation.
For you personally. This is for Marquis.
For Marquis, you know what comes to mind right now? There's so many, I mean, music is in our heads all day, every day. But what comes to mind right now is Kendrick Lamar, All Right. We gonna be
We gonna be
We're gonna be all right, man. There's so many people in frenzy right now, but we're gonna be all right. We're gonna make it through this thing. So that will be my own selection for the day.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining us. And this has been a pleasure. And I look forward to releasing this in its podcast and radio form. So make sure to subscribe to the podcast, all you Makaya and Marquis fans. And you'll get, with all the music inserted in, you'll get to hear some of Marquis Hill's Love Tape. Maybe versions 1 and 2. So anyway, and Makaya McCraven and his amazing recording projects celebrating the music of Gil Scott-Heron. Thank you so much, both of you.
All right.
Thank you.
Love you guys. Can't wait to see you in person again one day.
Yes,
Peace,
sir.
bro.
Peace.
Peace.
All right. So, Greg, we're moving on to, I guess, part 2 of this show, albeit a little 20 minutes later than we expected, but that's okay because this is new media and we were not limited to time when we're doing these things, right?
Yes.
And it is Public Radio Music Day. A shout out to WBGO, who's hosting
WBGO.
this special live stream, the world's greatest public radio jazz station. I know that we're doing a bunch of good in New York City and around the world for that matter, providing healing to all of our members and fans. And so if you ever think about wanting to make a contribution to help support us, that might be maybe consider doing so, because there's a bunch of hardworking, passionate people trying to bring you these healing vibes right now. And so do we have Sirintip standing by right now?
Yeah, we do. We have Sirintip and we have Michael League both on the line.
Well, why don't we just bring them both in?
All
Let's
right.
bring them both in.
Here we go. And by the way, the chat's working now. It wasn't working before, so you can see it. You can see live if people are commenting on some of the streams. I think it's particularly going through my socials, the Greg Spiro and Weekly Piano accounts. If people say anything, you'll see it up on the screen on the right-hand side. So let me know if you want me to remove that, if it gets too raucous. But I just admitted Sirintip and Michael League into the conversation, so hey!
Michael League looking like a bum in Spain. I love it.
And Sirintip looking beautiful as always.
I actually, Michael League, just so you know, the famous Dorthon Kirk, who's an NEA jazz master, used to call me homeless every time I went to work at WBGO. So I mean that with all love and endearing spirit.
I'm working on my homeless vibe.
I can't hear you, Michael. Sorry.
Oh, there it is.
I can hear you, Michael.
I can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
I hear you. Great.
I can hear you both. All right.
Oh, great.
Mike, say something again.
Something again.
There you go. Woo! All right, we got Mike. Good to see you, man.
Guys.
Great, so great to have you here.
Thank you. So I'm bringing you both in at the same time. I hope you don't mind, because this is jazz, baby, and sometimes we just have to roll with it. So thank you for your patience. And there you go. Both of you during this quarantine from what I can see, have been basically moving some mountains here and doing some real work in the trenches, providing services to our greater music community. Sirintip launched, along with some of her cohorts, Owen Broder, Tana Alexa, and others, to launch maybe the first virtual only online jazz music festival and fundraiser, and has raised a ton of money. And you're going to talk a little bit about that. And Michael League is presenting a lecture and concert and conversation series. I just watched his amazing conversation with David Crosby, super spiritual, and I look forward to talking to him about that as well. But first of all, Sirintip, how much money did you raise for musicians?
I haven't checked today, but yesterday we were up at $59,000.
What? That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think we're going to help around 70 musicians.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, thank you. I mean, that's literally doing like God's work, quite frankly, especially if you consider the role of the musician in society. If you think about it as we're all griots or something like that, and providing a service of healing and information. So that's just amazing. You're helping us keep our culture in check when things are going off the rails.
I mean, it's important. I just felt like in our community, most of our musician friends, we don't have a huge savings account just because of the nature of our work. So when something like this happens and everything just like goes abrupt, and it's not like you can just go to a restaurant and like, okay, let me just bartend, and do something else for a while. It's just everything is just gone. So I just felt like it was really important to do something to try to save, at least for a little bit, musicians in New York, because it's a metropolitan of jazz. If New York fails to take care of their musicians, how will the future of music look like?
And that's a real statement right there. Yeah, what is the future of New York of music without New York City? That's just, I can't even conceive of that like possibility. But that's a great way of putting it. And so also live from our livingrooms.com, you can go and watch your performance with Nolan, right? That you did a duo there of about a 60-minute set.
It was more 45, and it was kind of like a masterclass-ish. We just answered some questions. And some of them were about my breakfast. So. And we did some looping too, but yeah.
I understand you're going to play for us right now. Probably people are itching for some music right now with all this jabbering.
I mean, I could. Are we going to talk more?
Hear it.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to do some switch. Was the hardest thing I had to do. So have fun. Do you think feel love? Do you think? Do
All right. Sirintip, her new recording on Ground Up is called Tribus. Did I say that right? Tribus? Is that how you say that? And Michael Lee, what did you hear in this woman? So want to bring her on board?
You know, I met Tipan years ago. Snarky Puppy was playing its first gig at a club in Stockholm, Sweden called Fasching. And Tipan was like the production manager there. And we were talking backstage, and she had mentioned that she was a musician. And I was like, oh, cool, yeah, you know, send me some stuff. You know, I mean, it's a normal thing, I think, for musicians when you travel and you hear someone's a musician, you're like, you know, at the very worst, it's just something that you're not into, right? And, you know, no harm done. But she sent me some music. She had a neo soul band there called Molo. Is that right?
Yeah, Molo.
And I think I was just really into obviously her voice is very distinct, but also it just felt like there was like a serious creativity brewing in her brain. And also from talking with her, you know, just knowing that she is really, as you can tell from the program that she's been running, she's really socially conscious, and you know, the music is not just about the music for her. And so I think all those things kind of drew me in, and then we did this record, Tribus, together, her first record. She let me produce it, and it was super fun. We had a lot of fun, and it's just, you know, her band and her career is blossoming and moving in new directions. It's awesome to see.
Pretty amazing.
Thanks, Michael.
And I, you know, like the way I hear that music too, and just like Makaya and Marquis, like it has this quality to uplift, you know, it just feels amazing. And I have to think that there has to be some connection. I don't know if there has been any scientific studies, but that has to boost your immune system, right? Like music that feels good.
Right.
I mean, stress reduces your immune system, so anything that does the opposite, right, is a good thing, I guess.
So as it pertains to both of you, obviously, Michael, you've launched this series on Crowdcast, and if you go to Snarky Puppy's Facebook page, you can see all of these amazing workshops and conversations that you're presenting. You just did a magnificent, I mean, I have to stress this, like you're gonna make giving me a run for my money. You know, you're gonna take my job, Michael Lee. Your hosting of your conversation with Mr. Crosby was nothing short than magnificent, and should be syndicated on every show. Just talking about staying inspired in today's minefield. But so go to, you know, Snarky Puppy's Facebook page, learn more information about that, and watch the conversation. And you can watch by just only making a donation of some kind. But anyway, how are you both thinking about music as business, or is it business as usual? Like this kind of thing has to like shake up more than just touring. It's making musicians rethink how to conduct business as usual. So what are both of you thinking about right now?
Sirintip?
Well, I mean, Simon, you and I talked a little bit on the phone the other day, but some of the stuff that I really think about is like, obviously this has taken a big hit, and, you know, that's nothing that we should deny. But if we're trying to look at what Marquis and Makaya was talking about, the silver lining, I see a lot of great potential here in terms of the reach that we can get. So like with Michael's masterclasses, And the same with our live from our living rooms. Suddenly, instead of, being, restricted to the people that can be there at a specific time in a specific geography, you can reach people all over the world. And that is pretty incredible as a musician. And Michael and I have talked about this before too, in terms of how can you make passive income? Because touring and stuff is tricky and it's hard to be active all the time and it gets tiring. So in a way, it's easier if we can also find ways to make money while we don't actually need to be there in person. So I think like streaming and creating content that you can make money off even after this is over is going to be great, to create that extra cushion, just especially now also with streaming, because it's hard to make money off that. So, these master classes, that's going to be great. And then the other part of it is the whole environmental aspect of the way we've been traveling as an industry is not very sustainable. So I think that this can also open up ideas for how we can make it more sustainable in the future.
And should we just like have a worldwide boycott of YouTube or all the streamers that are just raping and pillaging the music community as we see it?
I just think that if we can find a way to make it financially sustainable, I think that there can be a lot of great things coming out of this. But yes, I mean, the way it works right now with Spotify and YouTube and iTunes and all those platforms, it's just not sustainable for artists to create.
And what about, Michael, go on. What are you going to say?
I was going to say it's at this point, it's essentially advertising for touring that we can't do.
Yeah.
And that's been the direct, like the out of mouth of representatives that I've spoken with from those streaming companies, of like, well, yeah, we understand that you're not making the same amount of money now that you were when you were selling records, but, we're enabling you to engage with so many more people around the world so much more easily, which is absolutely true, and the idea is that, okay, well, now you know where your fans are, and now you can go to Sweden when you realize that you have a big fan base in Sweden, but we can't go anywhere, now. And I mean, it was a problem before COVID, obviously, and that's enough content for 10 more podcasts talking about streaming and what it's for and to musicians, on both good and bad sides. But definitely, like, now that this rug has been pulled under us, and we don't also know when the rug is going to be back. People are talking, the president is talking about soon. I was speaking with someone in the United States who's a very influential concert promoter who doesn't believe that the U.S. is going to be open for business touring wise until the end of next year. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it could be. Harvard just published a study today saying we could be looking at 2022 before things are back to normal. So like Tipon said, we have to be creating content now to be released and taken advantage of when we're able to be mobile again. And we have to figure out ways to survive. And charity is going to, keep our heads above water for now, but there have to be structural changes for a longer term solution, I think.
Yeah.
And this is
sorry, go ahead.
No, go on, Saren. Finish your thought.
Well, I was just thinking, pitching to what Michael was saying, is I think that the problem essentially is like when we do stuff in a digital way, with streaming or digital downloads or whatever, people are just not used to paying for that content. So now if it's like what Michael's saying, we can't tour until 2022, people will need to change their mindset about, okay, if we want to support art, we actually need to pay for it. So if we can take tickets for shows, even if they're live streamed, and for people to actually want to tune in a specific time and pay for it and watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's some people working on that specifically in the technology space. I'm not sure if we've ever talked about it, but I'm involved in the tech space a bit, and Rope-A-Dope Records, Louis Marks is working on a model for Rope-A-Dope artists that can be expanded beyond Rope-A-Dope artists that will help try to normalize people paying for content that they wouldn't be able to get otherwise. And there's the big question of, well, we've been putting everything out for free, right? And that there are things that people will pay for from us. And I'm also working on a mobile app that'll probably be released in a couple of months for people to that'll help people get out content that is actually exclusive that people would demand enough to pay for it? That's going to be the big question for all of us as artists. What do we have that people will be willing to pay for, and how do we make what we do exclusive enough so that people are willing to? And we have to face that question now that it's sort of, we're backed into a corner.
Is anyone aware of the sort of Bitcoin blockchain technology as it pertains to, individual songs that you can download and can only be owned by one person? Are we making any headway there? Does anybody know?
I think that it almost kind of contradicts the point of art. I think a lot of artists would have a hard time reconciling creating something and only making it available to one person, right? I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I'm sure there's some artists out there if the dollar amount was high enough.
Well, do you mean one person, like actually it only one person's ever able to listen to it, or do you mean it would sell it?
Take. Yeah, well, I don't know exactly. I have no idea. I'm just trying to figure out different technologies that can help.
So the blockchain technology that's being developed for that it's what I've seen is not just trying to get it to a single person. It's something that puts the marketplace in the hands of the artist without a throughput, like Spotify or Apple Music, which are both streaming now, and you can't even sell your songs for 99 cents. There is that's one of the technology sort of landscapes that is working on building a way to put the control back in the hands of the person who has the information. And if we can succeed in this, it's going to empower artists in a way that we've never been empowered before throughout history, because there have always been gatekeepers.
And so also, Sirintip, you brought up this idea offline here about the environmental consequences and of touring, how that is just obviously, I don't know, you guys are all constantly on the road, burning all kinds of fossil fuels. Like, is this something that weighs heavily on your mind too? And how do we get around that obstacle?
Yeah, I mean, I know for us, we have a music festival, ground up music festival, as well as Snarky Puppy and Bocante touring, and it's a lot of flights, it's a lot of tour buses and vans, and a lot of plastic, So the first thing that we did, we were like, the first thing that we can do, we can change tomorrow. We don't need, anything other than willpower, is that we just said absolutely no plastic water bottles in any of the venues. Mm-hmm. Or and this is easy. We just went to the store and bought each member of the band and crew a metallic water bottle, mm-hmm. And then you label the name that they're responsible for it. Of course, we're musicians, people are going to forget it and whatever, but as long as they know that it's their responsibility, and I think we began reducing 2,500 plastic bottles a month. Mm-hmm. Snarky Puppy tours. That's how many, because someone takes a sip of water, they put it down, they don't remember which one is theirs, they get another one, and any band can do that. I think when you have a little more money, you can start engaging in programs that do carbon offsetting. Snarky Puppy does that. Bocante can't afford to yet, but hopefully it will soon, so which basically means that at the end of the tour, this company calculates how much of a carbon footprint you've left, and it engages in activities to replenish or to reduce or to cancel out that footprint, whether it's planting trees or through work in the ocean. And, there's a lot of programs that do that, but you have to pay for it. The government should be paying you to do it, but that's where we're at.
Yeah. Right now. Yeah, well, we have the technology and the resources to do that entirely as a globe. It's a matter of the education and the willpower of individuals to do that, like exactly what you're doing. I mean, microplastics, I love that you said that. That's more of a danger than global warming to the future of humanity.
So Sirintip, you've also thought about this in terms of providing artists opportunities maybe for more longer term residencies in places, so that you're not making a one-off gig in Australia and doing the next gig in San Francisco and going to Chicago, wherever. I mean, obviously everyone has to work together here, but I think we're sort of at this point where we have to rethink everything, right?
Yeah, I definitely think so, because it's so common that you just have one-off gigs. Like, with Snarky Puppy, you guys have pretty great tour routing. You didn't have like a lot of detours, but I think that, for instance, for my career, because I haven't gotten as far, I get like random gigs here and there, and then we fly for one gig. It's not really that great for us financially to do that, and environmentally it's a disaster. So I think that I've been thinking, I don't know if this is even possible, but just coming up with some kind of app that can help promoters and artists see where people are in a specific area during a specific time. And it's almost like the fee of the artist is dependent on how far away they are. So if someone is in New York, but the gig is in Australia, the costs of them are going to be much higher than if they already are in Australia. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like an environmentally conscious kind of thing to help people try to book in a smarter way, both as artists and as promoters.
All right. So, Michael, is there any way we can convince you to give us a music break right now? I know you're working on a solo vocal project, so all we need is you, baby. You can.
All I have here are I just have a drum and a Moroccan gimbri, and I'm like a student. I'm not a professional, so I'm kind of like mortified to even play anything. I mean, I can play you out the day.
Can you give us? All right. So can you sing one of your songs? Your new songs you're working on, a cappella. Now that's bold too. I understand.
I'll play. What I can do is I can play. I guess I can play this thing.
But first of all, you are. I mean, this for a person that puts basically an orchestra, the equivalent of an orchestra on the road. Almost for a full year. You're now hanging out with David Crosby too much. You're just like, nah. I'm gonna make a solo project. Is that sort of the logic?
The document, the text edit document or whatever that I started with all the song ideas for this record and blah blah blah. It's called ML Solo Album 2015. So it's actually been like a thing that I've been wanting to do for half a decade, and because no one suffers if it doesn't get done, I just haven't done it. If Snarky Puppy doesn't make a record, it's a lot of mouths to feed and all this kind of stuff, and same thing with Bocante or whatever. So since it's only me that is suffering by it not coming out, I'm just like, I just haven't done it. And then this quarantine, I'm in Spain, this is my 5th week here, and it's like an actual quarantine. You're really not allowed out of the house except to go straight to the grocery store and go home. After like 5 days, I was like, what, screw it, I'm gonna just do this now. I got a MIDI controller and an interface, and you can do a lot with that. So yeah, I'm like 16 tunes in now, which is good. They're very short. They're like really, really little things. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've been super happy, just like not having to reset up my crap every day. That's like a real thing about musicians, when you're traveling, take stuff out of the bag, set it up, find enough power outlets, blah, 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 and just being able to come to the same space and just work every day has been amazing. And also writing like a practice versus just like waiting to be inspired, but like I'm going to write for 4 hours a day, and then I've been practicing these things, and this thing is like it's like an ancient bass, basically. It's called a gimbri. It's like 3 strings, 2 that you can finger and 1 that's like a drone. So I don't know how well you hear this, but that's like the high string. You hear that okay?
Yeah, I hear. Yeah.
That's like the middle string, actually, kind of. Here's the low string. And then there's the drum high string. So it's like, I don't know what it's tuned to right now, but normally it's like DDG or CCF. So it's like it's like a drum and a bass. You can play it kind of like or you can play it like percussively, like Right? So, but I'm just like having fun practicing it every day, basically. But it's like, you know, they use a pentatonic scale in Ganawa music, this Moroccan genre, but it's like a pentatonic scale without a minor third. It's like 1, 2, which is a little flat, like a mournful 2, and then like 4, 5, 7, 1. So. Right. So really crazy. It's
Wow.
really. But for me, also, it feels like a blues. I mean, everything feels like a blues instrument to me because I'm American, I guess. So I can play blues.
The blues. I mean, straight up. I mean, why not? I mean, what? Yeah. I love seeing you next to Sirintip. It's like ancient to the future, bringing back the AACM. A little shout out again.
Love that. I can play blues for you. How about that?
Awesome.
Yay.
Cool. All right. Well, we look forward to hearing your songs, Michael, and really, definitely everybody watch his conversation with David Crosby, where he talks about songwriting specifically, and you know, being put in all kinds of precarious positions, you know, with mental blocks and you know, self-doubt and you know, David Crosby was so humble during that conversation. One thing that really struck out to me was just how much he was willing to defer to all of the brilliant minds and musicians around him of his same era, you know, from Bob Dylan to James Taylor to, you know, everyone else that he, you know, basically calls a genius, Joni Mitchell. Michael Lee, do you ever have you ever encountered or you know, been in the same room with a musician that made you want to quit as a musician?
Yeah, all the time. So musicians like that make you want to quit, and then they make you want to practice.
Right.
You know? I mean,
so there's different levels of sort of like mastery.
Yeah, I think it's rare that you meet someone that is really just like on such another level in terms of like a gift that they have that you could never reach it. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the time we're like, oh, that person's a genius, or, you know, I can never do that. But really, you totally could. You just need to practice a bunch, spend a lot of time and work and do certain things, you know? But, you know, I think every once in a while you meet somebody that you're like, whoa, there was just something weird in the soup when that person came into existence. You know what I mean? Like where it's just, it doesn't, maybe I've met that person 1 time or 2 times in my life.
Can you give a name? I know maybe for Greg Spiro, it might be Herbie Hancock.
I was just thinking.
I could just guess.
You know, you know, it's funny because there have been many times where I've met someone like that and I was like, that's that person, that's them. And then when I spend years with them, then I'm like, no, they just work really hard, you know, or they've just practiced really hard, or they've put themselves in a position to really take advantage of the things and that they're brilliant, you know, but like really that crazy X factor. I don't know, you know.
Well,
I mean,
that's really reassuring for all of us.
Yeah, it's a hope. I actually think of it as like a hopeful thing, you know, that it's like we all have a lot of potential, and maybe some of us are great at certain things and not great at other things. Some people are great at coming up with melodies, but they don't have a lot of groove. Some people are great with lyrics, but they can't sing in tune, you know, and you know, when we look at really any great musician, there's always going to be something that isn't the best in the world, you know. So I think it's just encouragement for all of us to just stay the course and learn as much as we can. We're all students, you know, until we die.
All right. So for all 3 of you then, one song for self-isolation. Your personal self-isolation, of course. That sounds like redundancy, but you know what I'm trying to say. Do you have one? Anybody? Whatever that concept means to you.
The World We Knew, Frank Sinatra. I love that song, but also when you check out the lyrics, it's obviously about a couple that was in love, and then his partner left, and he just keeps running over and over in his mind what the world was like when they were in love, and he says like all the bright neon signs turned into gold, and all this kind of stuff, or turned into stars, and I feel like that way about the world now. I like look out the window and I'm like, oh, I remember when I could just go outside and do what I wanted.
All right. And
want me to go next,
Greg?
Or Sirintip? I can say mine.
Go.
I would have to say that it would be the Keith Jarrett Colne concert, which is it's one of my favorite recordings. It's up in the top 5, but I would say for quarantine it's the top 1 because music has been my sort of it's been the vessel through which I've been able to dive into spirituality, and that is such a beautiful descriptor of the spontaneous and beautiful mind at its like deepest core. And you can listen to the entire concert and just and get into it. It can transport you to another place that has nothing to do with all the sufferings that we are experiencing by not being able to see each other and having to isolate. That would be mine.
You guys have such great answers.
Okay.
I don't feel like I've had. Oh, everything good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good, Simon. So the audience actually
good, yeah.
has.
All I was gonna say is my mom actually put on a Clone concert on Easter. And I didn't ask her. She just put it on, and so the music that I was raised with. But I'm just amazed at like how did Keith Jarrett do that? Like every note is perfect. Like how did he do that? It's a mystery.
I don't actually. I can't play note for note, but I.
That's my favorite track.
Yeah.
All right, Sirintip, you're next.
Yeah, so I don't have a specific song. I couldn't think of one, but Bill Frisell performed at our festival, and Crowdcast crashed when he was going to start. I think we got too many people tuned in. It was like 2,000 people who tuned in. And so he started 90 minutes late, but once he started to play, it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. And he played like Someone to Watch Over Me in New York, and it was just like hitting here. So we're taking down the videos today, but if we get his permission, maybe we'll put it on YouTube or something, or have people buy the video because it's amazing and support artists.
Well, hopefully we can share a little bit of it here on this show in the podcast form, so people can hear it.
I'll ask Bill. Yeah.
Well,
thank you all so much for joining.
Are we gonna get to hear Mike like play a song on that thing? Because that looked so cool, man. And it sounded amazing, like when you were playing it. I don't know. I just want to give my vote if you'll.
If we have time. Do we have time? Are we over?
Sure,
bro. We have no limit. We can go.
We have no limit. We're
literally until tomorrow morning
infinity.
this time if we want to. Well, actually, the stream will probably fail by then, but. Let me give you some reverb here.
Oh, nice. I think I broke all kinds of laws playing a blues on this clip.
That was awesome. Yeah, that was killing. Beautiful.
All
beautiful,
right.
man.
Well,
Fun. It's a fun. I mean, you know, it's the left hand is like a normal instrument. The right hand is a totally different beast. So that's really the challenge, and nothing like being at home alone all day to get your butt kicked by something new. You know.
Mm-hmm.
and how on earth are you self-isolating without your bass, Michael League? I have to ask the elephant in the room.
The truth about that is that I don't really play bass much outside of playing gigs. That's kind of weird and probably bad to say, but I'm normally trying to get better at other stuff. Just because, like, I don't know, most of the gigs I play on bass, it's really about feel and groove and tone, and it's not like a technical beast, like if I was playing in the electric band or something, you know? So I try to strengthen other stuff because that also just reinforces hopefully better bass playing, you know? It's like music, everything's connected. So if you learn one thing, you relate it to another thing, and you know.
Very cool. Well, thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to all our online watchers and listeners. And make sure to subscribe to the podcast, where you can hear the fully enriched version of this show and edited down as well. We'll make it just keep the best parts. And thank you all so much for, again, joining us. It has been quite a pleasure. And keep up the good work at moving those musical mountains. And Sirintip, we're going to do something hopefully in the near future. So stay tuned on our social media feeds. We'll be announcing hopefully a Zoom concert that Sirintip and I will be embarking on. She will perform a set for us, another studio session. So just follow us on social media, and there'll be more announcements coming.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, Mike and
Thank you
Sirintip.
so much, Simon.
It was so great having you on this. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Greg. I'm so happy to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. We didn't even get to tell the story about when we met, which was actually in the same situation that Mike met Sirintip, which was when I played Fashing. It was like actually I think a week after you played it, or maybe a week before it. When Makaya and I were on tour.
Everything goes back to Fashing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is this? What is this mysterious event? What happened?
Well, okay, as long as
Fashing is a jazz club in Stockholm. It's basically the Blue Note of Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
I've never been there, but so very cool.
Yeah, as long as we're just shooting the shit a little bit at the end of this thing. I met her there, but didn't remember that I had met her there. And then after you recommended her for the show, and we started talking, then Makaya told me, actually, do you remember? She was the production coordinator when we played that gig, and that was when I did one of my first Greg Spiro tours, and we did a Makaya McCraven gig with the same band as the Greg Spiro tour at Fashing, because he had gotten a gig offer at Fashing, and so we first met then. And then actually another time that I didn't realize was you, when we chanted together at NAMM with Herbie. Yes. And it was just the three of us, right? It was
us, and then a man I don't know, and then Alex Hahn, who's a sax player who lives
Alex
in
was
LA.
there too. I totally forgot about that.
Also, Center of the Universe, Fashing and Chants with Herbie. It's just like Everybody's there all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So yeah, it's great to actually reconnect with you and then tie all the threads together from our rich history
From
that
our
we've
past.
already had.
We go back like 7 years now.
I know. Well, same with Mike. Mike and I met in New York, like probably 10 years ago. It was when you were first starting Snarky Puppy, and the Kieta Ogawa was a friend of mine who I was playing with out there, and we met at a bar. I can't remember what the bar was, but we like sat and talked for a little bit. And you were like, "I've got this project. It's called Snarky Puppy," and I was like, "That's an interesting name." And then
I think just 10 years ago, I just moved to New York. So, and Keita was one of the, he got me my first gig playing with a Japanese vibraphonist named Mika Mimura. That was like one of my first gigs in the city. Yeah, Keita was my hookup. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, a lot of time's passed, and we all have a lot of time to reflect on all that stuff now.
Yeah.
All right, Greg. Greg, why don't you take us out with something?
Okay.
Yeah, sure. And thank you guys again for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully in person soon and give you all a big hug.
Yeah, everybody be safe.
You too, Simon.
All right. Do you want me to keep people on while I take us out, or should I get back to the other? I've got my
whatever they want to stay on, they can stay on. They can. Okay. They have something to do. They can bounce.
I feel like after that first thing I tried to do, where I was playing a complicated song without warming up, now I feel like my hands have like acclimated a little bit. But I'll play a ballad, because that's a little more appropriate for. This is called Earthbound. It's off the upcoming record. It's a truncated version. You'll have to wait for the full record to hear the full version.
Coming June 12th, right?
Yep, June 12th on Rope-A-Dope Records. Spirit Fingers, entitled Peace. Which is a good segue to end of the show, right?
All right. Well, peace to you all. And thank you. And hopefully we can do more of this soon. Check out Sirintip. Go to our website. Looks beautiful. Check out Michael League's conversation and workshop series. Watch his workshop with David Crosby. I know you're doing one with Victor Wooten soon, right? On the bass. Woo! Is that coming up?
Is today Friday?
Today's Thursday.
Saturday night.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And then stay tuned for Sirintip and I. We're gonna do our own thing. So
yeah,
thank you all.
Simon Rentner, everybody. This is Simon Rentner from WBGO and the Checkout, taking over Mornings with Greg, which is here every morning at 8 a.m. and which I'll continue to do on my socials. And hopefully I'll be able to get Simon to come back and do this again, because this was a super fun experiment and journey into the worlds of streaming capabilities.
Yes. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Much love.
All right.
Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
safe.
Mike. Thanks, Sirintip. Thanks, Simon.
Bye, Greg.
Bye-bye.
Bye.